When I hear Pixar, I think of things like awestruck, inspiring, magical, nostalgia. All these things can be used to describe their movies. Now, does Pixar's latest outing, Elemental, manage to fit the bill of all those words? Honestly, I can't say it can. This movie has positives and negatives, but honestly, there were more negatives dragging down this movie than positives. Let's start by focusing on the positives. Elemental is a visually astounding movie. Watching all these elements interact in Element City is just amazing. Watching all these characters interact with the environment was actually something I was really looking forward to. And honestly, Pixar did not disappoint. You had the classic reactions like when Ember accidentally burned a wood guy, but then you had something I really didn't expect to see. A few that come to mind is that during one scene, during a cloud-based basketball game, Wade, one of the main characters, managed to start a tidal wave all across the stadium with only just cheering. It was actually pretty astounding. Another is when Ember, one of the other main characters, was interacting with the metals on the ground, changing colors as she stepped on them. Really good work. For the most part, I believe the cast of characters is pretty solid as well. There are a few tropey characters, like Claude, who's that classic little kid who's in love with the older female, and not to mention Ember's mom, who was a bit too one-note when it came to the love. She could have been a bit fleshed out more. But the characters who stand out in this film are pretty much the central three characters of the movie: Ember, Wade, and Ember's dad. Watching Ember's character development through the film was honestly astounding. She went from a hot-blooded customer service worker to someone willing to follow her own path in both terms of her career and in terms of love. It was just heartwarming to watch. No pun intended. Wade was honestly pretty solid. From the moment he laid eyes on Ember, his whole life changed, and I like how the movie just essentially ran with it. He didn't really change as much as Ember did, but he embraced her fully, and by the end, he got his wish. Ember's dad was also pretty great. He was a foreigner in a new land and tried to adapt as best he could, trying to be the best father that he could be as well. I also like the fact that his ties back home managed to pave the way to how he treated Ember as well. It was pretty engaging. Now let's move on to the more negative impacts of Elemental. The first thing being the story. This was, frankly, not a very engaging story. Elemental's story is bogged down by the fact that there's really nothing original about it. When I think of a story when it comes to four elements, with fire being singled out, I think of The Last Airbender. When I think of a story in which you see a bunch of different communities coming together but one singled out over the others, I think of Zootopia. When I think of a classic story of the boy and the girl who can't be together for whatever reason, I think of Romeo and Juliet, High School Musical, Grease, so on and so forth. And that's the problem here. They're just a bunch of stories we've seen before and a bunch of different narratives come together, and it leads to this slog. No matter how engaging characters may be, if the story isn't able to match that, then what's the point? Which leads to another problem Elemental had when it came to plot lines. The first half of the movie dealt with racism against fire people, and then it was just abandoned. It wasn't even addressed again at the end. Then the story seemed to shift from racism against fire people to respecting your foreign traditions and all that. It would have been better if they just stuck to one or the other rather than trying to mix them both and just abandon one halfway through the movie. Another issue with the plot was the fact that it was kind of predictable. I mean, there were moments in the movie where I thought to myself, yep, this is Pixar just doing their classic so-and-so, and that's it. For a company that's really known for making a movie about rats who can cook or toys coming to life, I wish they could have mixed it up a little more. The voice acting was pretty decent, but the OST was honestly largely forgettable. Elemental is visually very unique. When it comes to the soundtrack and the story, I can't say it's anything but cookie cutter, and it's a bit of a shame. Overall, I would say that Elemental is a fairly average Pixar movie. It's got a great presentation and a colorful cast of characters, but unfortunately it's bogged down by a forgettable story and forgettable soundtrack. For Pixar, I do expect a bit better than what we got with Elemental, so hopefully they get their mojo back soon.
Someday it'll all be yours.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, try to give a like or leave a comment. If you didn't like what you saw, try to leave me some feedback to see in ways I can improve. Thank you. Have a nice day.